Edgar here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about I don't know artistic freedom, I guess. In one example, um, I'm a huge fan of Clint Eastwood in front of the camera and behind the camera. Always been, even and since I was a kid. I think the very first thing I ever saw from him, and I was a kid, and I don't think I was supposed to see this, but it was Play Misty for me. And I don't think I was supposed to see it because, well, it's not a movie that someone my age in the late 70s, I think, should have seen. But for some reason, I liked it. The second movie I saw Clint Eastwood in was Any Which Way But Loose. And I was like, okay, this guy's amazing. And as I got older, more and more things started falling in. When I took a liking to Westerns and I learned about The Man with No Name, boom, big fan. Big fan. And I'm slowly building a collection of Clint Eastwood movies because what else am I going to do at this age, you know? If my grandfather had DVDs when he was a kid, well, not when he was a kid. Let me rewind that. If my grandfather had DVDs back when in the 70s when I was a kid, he probably would have tried to build a collection of John Wayne movies. Well, I'm trying to do Clint Eastwood. Anyway, I did get my hands on J Edgar. J Edgar. Now, if I was a Kennedy, I got a copy of J Edgar. J Edgar. This movie is fantastic, by the way. But it made me realize, the artistic licensing writers, directors take when they use historical people. Because I bring this up because in J Edgar, they paint him not in too bad of a light, but not in a good light. They don't hide the stuff he was doing behind, his secret files or anything. And that he lied and tried to cover certain things up, like, oh, I caught this guy and I was there for that. They didn't paint him too evil, but they didn't paint him too nice. But you did have sympathy for him. But for years, people was taught about his cross-dressing and stuff. And then this one, they just used it as when after his mother died, he just put on her dress. He was heartbroken. Doesn't necessarily tell us if he's really a cross-dresser or anything. It is what it is. They did touch on base that he might have been gay, but they were leaving it up to us to decide. Me personally, I think J Edgar Hoover was gay. And that he hung out with the Hollywood starlets as a means to people would think, but I think he was gay. I don't care about gay people. Like, I don't mean that in a rude way. It's like, I don't care. I don't judge them. I don't care. Live your life. Have fun. So I don't really, so it doesn't, I didn't like, oh my God, the movie's ruined. He was gay. No, I don't care about that. But at least they touched base on it and made it in a way to where it's up to you to decide. We gave you the pieces, you put the puzzle together. But it's a really good movie. If anybody hasn't seen it, I suggest you see it. It's really good. It really focuses more on the kidnapping of the Lindbergh child. But in his relationship with his wife, his secretary, or not his wife, his mother, his secretary, and his partner. Which partner could go, who knows? But I think they were. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Maybe it's on the back. Army Hammer played the character, but I don't remember what his name was. But that's okay. That's okay. But now I recently watched Nixon from Oliver Stone, and that movie too was a good movie. But they really, once again, somebody made Nixon. They showed the good he did and the bad he did, but they did try to make him a little sympathetic. Like, he did bad things, but I feel sorry for him a little bit. If you found yourself watching Nixon or J. Edgar and you were feeling sorry for these guys, they did a good job at what they were doing. Because when you grow up learning about these men in school and in history, you think they're the worst people ever. You think, at least the educational system that I came from. I always thought Hoover was just a mean, corrupt guy, and Nixon was just a cruel, corrupt man. These movies makes you see things different. Now, artistic freedom, that's where this comes in. I don't know if what we're seeing about these people were true, but when they made Nixon, Go back and watch Nixon. Their rendition, I think that's the word I'm looking for. I don't know. Their portrayal of J. Edgar was flamboyant. I mean, he was flamboyant in this movie, in Nixon. You could tell they were. This guy is gay. Let us show you. His partner there was with him. He was. They made him. They portrayed him really gay. Where in Clint Eastwood's film, they portrayed him as a manly man per se, but he was very much you could see where, okay, I kind of believe he's gay because of this behavior and this, that, and the other. If you don't watch this one and you just watch Nixon, you're gonna be like, oh man, J. Edgar Hoover was gay, no question about it. And that just goes, and just when I was laying there watching it last night, I'm like, man, the same character, totally portrayed differently, but they're supposedly both historically accurate movies. So that's why I always say, based on a true story, based on an autobiography, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because who wrote it? Who's got something to, make out of it? Who are we trying to make someone look good? We're trying to make them look bad. Like the Nixon. I think Oliver Stone was really trying to make Nixon look good, and he really made J. Edgar look bad. And Clint Eastwood was trying to make him look good and be sympathetic, but to let you in on it, like, okay, he wasn't perfect. You decide. I think Clint Eastwood's vision of J. Edgar was a lot better. But it wasn't, Oliver Stone's wasn't about Nixon, J. Edgar. It was a Nixon film. But I just feel if he did make a J. Edgar movie, he would have just made him flamboyant like he was in there. So one character portrayed two different ways. So when you see a movie and you're like, like, let's say Malcolm X with Denzel Washington, is that how he really was? I mean, if it's based on Alex Haley's book, who knows? I love Roots, but I found out, researching it after I watched it. I bought Roots recently. Roots and Roots: The Next Generations, and I love them. Great films or miniseries, whatever you want to call it. They were great movies. I'll just call them movies. They were great. I loved each episode. Here I'm calling them episodes of movies. I can't get my act together, can I? I loved Roots. The Next Generation wasn't as good, but it was slow moving because they were showing, because Kunta's relatives, who had just, one of them, at the beginning of Generations, the old man was a slave at one point. He was Chicken George's son. So, anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. But it was slow because it was supposed to go from Chicken George's boy all the way to Alex Haley. So it was kind of slow moving because they were showing the different generations, but at the same time it was still moving fast. But some of their lives weren't as like intriguing, some people would say, but it was still good. I liked Next Generations. It's just the original Mary series was better. But I was researching it and I just typed into Google, was Alex Haley a fraud? And it told me, yes, he was. He would have been sued for plagiarism, and he came out and he called Roots faction, which is, it's fact and fiction. And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, but then I see it from his point of view. I really do. In the sense of, slaves didn't have books, they didn't have paper, they didn't have pencils. What were they supposed to do? There was, they didn't even have caves to draw stuff on. So everything from the slave days was all handed down. They had to, it was all given to them verbally. So it was a verbal history. So I understand where he's saying, I embellished, I created some stuff just to help spruce it up, and I get that. Does it change the fact that will it affect my love for this miniseries Roots and the Roots Next Generation? No, I don't care. I know that a lot of it's based in fact, so it doesn't matter to me. But I've always been one to, based on a true story, based. That's the word there. And not what the new kids are calling, oh, it's based. I'm talking, it's based on it. But I'm not going to believe everything I see. But I've always been the kind of guy who researches stuff after I watch it. That's why I looked about Alex Haley. because I had seen snippets and heard snippets of that he was a fraud, but I never really thought about it. And then when I watched the miniseries, I'm like, so I always research stuff. I'll probably be deep diving J Edgar, like crazy, because like I said, I like to learn. I'm like a sponge. I don't know why, but I've always been one to like just kept craving knowledge, just craving it. And when I find some, then I got to research that knowledge, and then to try to get to the, I like the truth, but I also like to be entertained. If you're going to make a movie about somebody and embellish a little bit, if you made it entertaining, I'll go with it. Just don't go too far off the beaten path. But anyway, I just wanted to sit down. It was bugging me last night, laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I'm like, man, he's portrayed like two movies that have J Edgar as a character, and they're totally portrayed totally different. And it just bugged me because they're supposed to be they're historically they're people who really existed. It's not like, when Mel Gibson did The Passion of the Christ. We don't know if that's how Jesus Christ really acted because, well, we weren't there. But people were alive and hung out with J Edgar and hung out. So it's like there are people who might have seen the Nixon version and were like, that was nothing like him. But might have watched the Clint Eastwood one and it wasn't like that either. So you got to give or take. But I'm not telling you not to enjoy documentaries and biographies and still enjoy them. But I just thought it was interesting, because usually when they do, usually movies are like spread apart. If there's a J Edgar movie, you might not ever, but we went through a phase, I think, in the late 90s and early 2000s where they were making biographies of people from the 60s. So it was bound to, be a movie that had J Edgar in it too. But I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. But all right. But yeah, if you like Clint Eastwood and you like it's got Leonardo, he did a really good job. I'm telling you, he did a good job. Naomi Watts, she did an excellent job. Armie Hammer, Josh Lucas, and Judi Dench played his mother. She was great. I liked it. It was a good movie. So if you haven't, I'm sure at this point you've seen it, but if you haven't seen it, pick it up. It's not too long, a little over 2 hours. It wasn't bad. I got some other movies up on tap. I wasn't gonna do a movie. I like to talk about older movies on my channel, not so much newer movies, because there's probably 10 million videos about J Edgar. The only reason I'm talking about this is because of the fact that the different portrayals. I just was like wanted to like. This is like therapy for me. I just come on here and I talk. If somebody listens and likes it, cool. If I get one view and it's, my mom, it's okay. I don't care. But I just wanted to talk about that. But I got other movies, that like I bought the 2-pack for Any Which Way You Can and Any Which Way But Loose. When I watch those, I'll make a video on those. I just want to keep some of the old entertainment alive. That's why I do the shows on Vortex Radio where I play more stuff from the old days, because I just want people, there's a YouTube channel on here, Gen Zer, who reacts to music from the 70s and stuff. And he's from what I've seen of his videos, he's a good guy. And he's honest. And he actually, that makes me, watching somebody like that, it makes me realize there are a lot of young people who don't know about the older stuff. So that's why I do the things that I do, because I think it's important to, remember the past. So yeah. So I wasn't going to do anything about J Edgar, but I just wanted to talk about that. The portrayal. But I've got, I got some stuff coming up, and I got a bunch of movies that I ordered from not Vinegar Syndrome, but Shout Factory, a big set from Shout Factory, and Severin. So I got some more older movies coming, and once I watch them, I'll do like I did with Jack the Ripper and all that. I'll do a video on them. But this was just every once in a while, something from the new generation may grab me, and I may do this isn't really a new generation. This movie was from what? I don't even remember when this movie was made. Early 2000s? I'm not sure. Anyway, bad memory and all. When you start losing your cognitive skills due to health issues, you forget things. So this is, I don't remember when this came out, but it was definitely in the 2000s. So it's not that old. I tend to I tend to want to do 70s and 80s more than anything else. But anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. Make sure you check it out if you haven't. And until next time, I'm Grandpa the Nerd, and I'll see you around.